is to essentially point back to our landscape and tree preservation ordinance. So the idea here is that every particular property owner on the oceanfront, if there's maintenance, routine maintenance, pruning, those things would still be allowed based on our current tree and preservation ordinance, where those are exempt from normal review. Not exempt from normal rule, but are exempt from a practice of requiring scrutinized review. The idea is that any substantial tree removal as in that buffer zone, those would be subject to approval of our landscape and tree preservation ordinance. So it points back to our existing ordinance where, and that's, to be clear, that's only applied to single-family residential, except those properties which are not subject to an existing architectural review purview. Any questions so far? Pause. I think maybe you can re-engage, or any questions there on that.
Can you show a full island overlay of the lines?
Yep.
Because I have some questions about some of the conditions you described in areas that that obviously the resort would be impacted by, and I want to understand if you looked at that and recognize that it may have to be applied to a different standard.
So I'm going to do my best to try to show this in its entirety, but we can.
See the ocean course area to start.
Okay.
Zoom in so you can see where the baseline is, and where the
So this would be the.
all of those lines are on the golf course, in many cases on golf holes. And when you go further east, there are multiple holes that will be impacted, the playability of them, if you stay to the replacement of only natural flora and fauna can be there. And in one specific area, it says no turf. There are areas on the golf course that we would not be able to build back the playing surfaces because this ordinance would preclude that. I hope that wasn't your intent.
No, it wasn't our intent at all.
That's why I want to know how closely you looked at the whole thing and where it went, and particularly also on Turtle Point, the 3 holes that are on the ocean on Turtle Point. These lines come up to the top of the dune. Yeah, number 5 there, but it's also on the driving range and close to the 18, 16 fairway. There's a number of areas where it would negatively impact the ability to do the turf in that zone area if we had a hurricane that wiped it out and everything. So I think that I'd like to make sure that you consider that as you go forward with talking about this.
Yeah, Mary Beth, are you still there? I got to be honest, I didn't focus on the turf landscape part as to how it impacts the golf course, so that's very good input. And I think that's something we should look at, because that wasn't our intent to prevent you
I appreciate that.
from doing your golf course.
I'm here too. This is Mary Beth. Missed that. Thank you.
We can fix that.
Some of the landscape pieces were later in the process as we were changing a couple. Anyway, long story short, we missed the impact the landscaping requirements would have on the golf course. So we need to rethink that. Thank you very much.
So it would also raise a different question or a different perspective on it. I think that all of us who've been here a long time along this beach know that there are different segments of the beach that have reacted differently to storms and so forth. And this looks like it just, you're following the baseline. But is it more practical and more functional to do a deeper dive into it? Are you going to treat different segments differently because of where the beach stands right now, and what the impact would be more onerous to some and less to others And does it make sense to make adjustments based on the circumstances as they exist today? And I have one more question. Can you please describe to me which view you're trying to protect? If this all starts talking about the view of the beach, from where, for whom?
The first question on the different segments being addressed differently, that was something that was discussed early on. I think landing where we are today was an outcome that tried to keep it consistent. Whether right, wrong, and different, I think that was the idea, to try to keep a consistency across the entire beachfront profile. As stated, there are different, what I would call, characteristics of different portions of the beachfront. So that may be something opposed to looking at, as we mentioned, the center core or the Eugenia properties. Is there a different application that works in that particular core of the island opposed to the others? Those are things that we discussed early on. I think where the recommendation landed was the ability to look at how can we keep it consistent, sort of what I would use the word fair, across the entire ocean front.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to weigh in on this a little bit? I just saw you back there making faces.
Well, I'm not making faces. I'm just drinking it all in. I'm sorry if it came across that way. No.
You know, we wanted to have, I agree with John, we did look at different things, but we wanted it to be fair and consistent across.
I think there's merit in recalibrating to see if there's segments of how we've outlined and organized in CSC's report the different reach of the island, and marrying those to if there needs to be any adjustment. I think the core intent of the ordinance doesn't change trying to preserve those primary areas of dune, but I think does that 50 or whatever is any metric number modified in any of those reaches? I think that could be something that is discussed.
Maybe just one response, and again, it's just how I've been thinking about it since the Planning Commission has brought this forward to the council, is, and to John's point about some consistency across the beachfront, I responded to one comment that was made with regard to, well, the State Beach Management Act solves for all of that. And as I pointed out, it solves for certain objectives, but not for others. And as I mentioned, Myrtle Beach is completely consistent with the State Beach Management Act. It is all built back behind the State Beach Management Act, but we here on Kiowa have historically had a different ethos about density, building height, etc. Behind that State Beach Management Act setback. And if we simply relied on the State Beach Management Act, we could potentially end up, there are other zoning provisions at play, with something that looked a little bit more like Myrtle Beach, and I don't think anybody agrees with that. I had quoted from, and unfortunately it was the intention, I think, to get this actual language into the current comprehensive plan, a reference in the 2015 plan about the town's vision with respect to, as a general matter, large buildings, structures, and homes be set back well from the ocean front. And so that, both from a visual standpoint of residents and visitors walking along the beachfront, you didn't have large buildings and structures dominating the viewscape, as well as the situation which seems to be presenting itself, which is also an individual homeowner, is on some properties, and this is particularly with regard to redevelopment, where you've seen some prior properties, homes, well set back from the ocean. And now their adjoining neighbors have torn down properties that were adjacent to them that were also set well back from the setback line or the property line, now building much larger structures well in front of their properties that visually obstruct their views up and down the beach, both the east and west. And is that kind of fair to everybody or not? And those are some of the kinds of issues that once this was presented to the council that I've started thinking about. I mentioned that personally as a policymaker, I'm trying to figure out how best to solve for all of those.
Mr. Warren, you had some other comments?
I have a lot more now. That seems to happen when Brad and I talk.
I always try to get between them, by the way. I think we should really consider the topic that was part of the various conversations of late. That is the treatment of not the baseline is the baseline, but the treatment of the setback from a baseline could vary from one condition to another. I think we'd all have to agree that there's not an exact sameness of every one of those conditions that run the 10-mile beach.
Yeah.
Mark, it's Mary Beth here, sorry. I don't think I disagree with what you're saying, but I'm not sure I completely understand where you're going with that. Could you give a couple of examples of what you mean, please?
Well, I'm just saying that if you were to do what Brad talks about, which is to walk the 10-mile beach, your relation, I know, I think everyone in the room in their one moment, it varies considerably. Like this, I assume this is Eugenia. What?
I was gonna walk the beach.
So that's Eugenia, right?
Yes.
Now go to Osprey Beach. Be the opposite
Other
way.
way.
Yeah, you're going the right.
No, he's going the wrong
No,
way. You're going the wrong way.
you're going west.
You wanna go east.
We want to go east.
Starting on one.
Turn them around. And that's where you're saying the turf things.
Yeah, if you keep going, now if you
Let's do this. I'm gonna start, then we can, and just pause me where we'll start far to far.
all right, yeah, we can go from here west, right? What you'll see is a different relationship of related to the primary dune. Put your eyes over the primary dune and the distance relationship to the right. And you'll see extreme variation. And it's because the two ends, the eastern end and the western end, accrete at a much more accelerated rate than the middle. And the real trick is less about the primary dune and see where the transition is from dune vegetation to maritime forest. See, those buildings on the right are at the edge of that transition. And when those home sites were first laid out, the maritime forest was much further back, but the maritime forest is growing toward the beach because the beach is growing out. And that's because the eastern end is very aggressively accretional. The more you get to the middle, it's accretional, but the rate is considerably different. And my only point, Mary Beth, was as an alternative, not where we might end up exactly where we are right now, but as an alternative to at least consider, well, maybe there are variations depending upon the geographic location.
I hear you. I have spent some time with the latest report that we have from Coastal Sciences, but and looking at the different zones. But we will certainly go back and look at it again through the lens that you're describing, and see where we land.
See, could you stop it? Here's an indicator. See where the boardwalks end? That one in the middle, the one in the middle is right at the dune. But see the ones above it? See how far back they are? Those were built considerably further years back. And at one time, the end of those boardwalks were where the then primary dune was. See what I mean?
But if I hear you, and I'm seeing that, and then I mean, the new boardwalk that's being done right now is way out into the beach. Let me go back. I hear you. I think if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that the beach is dynamic.
And Mark, just maybe one minor kind of correction for the record. Mary Beth referenced the most recent CSE report. The one thing it did state in this report that is somewhat different than past reports is, you know, the point that there's kind of different accretional rates,
right.
But it actually said that the one or two of the reaches more towards the middle, western portion of the island, they now characterize as non-accretional, stable to erosional. And, you know, that's something we need to, as a policy-making matter, need to take into account.
Take the point. Yeah.
And Brad, just to reiterate that, I mean, we've spent some time discussing, based on that latest report, what is, I realize that it's not an industry, but sorry, I'm hearkening back to my former life. You know, what's the industry standard for the time frame that you use to evaluate a beach and whether it's accreting or eroding? So that I'm saying that relative to what Mayor Belt just stated, that there are some areas that you kind of scratch your head and wonder what's really going on there.
Right. Well, the state historically has used two indicators. 10 years for the recycling, but they go back, if I'm not mistaken, 40 years.
Yeah.
They go back 40 years.
Mm-hmm. But that 10-year time frame raises some questions in a couple places on the beach.
Right. That's the value, to your point, to both your points.
John,
That's the
please.
value.
So Mark, I think we should go back and look at that another time relative to your comments. I think we did, but let's go do it again. We can do that again.
Right. Another tool available, which is less precise, but it's literal, is if you have Google Earth on your desktop, and you go back as far as they allow you, which I think is at least the mid-'80s. It might go back further on there, and you can scroll in one position, and you can see how it moves around. I won't say moves forward, moves around.
Yes. Thank you.
So, John, if you'd stop it, there are two parcels that seem to be a focal point for the discussion about commercial development on the ocean in the future, and we basically own both of them. This parcel next to the sanctuary, which is called the East Beach Ocean parcel. Can you move closer to the west, John? This is an area that, through storms and everything, we have lost a lot of the dunes over the last 5 years. And it's evidenced by the fact that we've had to build our boardwalk parallel to the dune field to be able to get it to give us the service that we want there. That parcel next to the sanctuary and windswept, I think is about 800 linear feet along there. And I frankly, honestly don't have any concern with what you're trying to do on this parcel, because we have spent no time trying to figure out what we'd like to do with it in the future. But I will say that it does change the perceived value of this land. When and if the baseline and then these first two zones move into the property, that was always planned for development, that for all intent and purposes, you're reducing the value of the land because it can't be developed the way it could have before you do your ordinance.
Wouldn't it still be subject to lot coverage requirements that are applicable to that parcel? And it would just mean whatever you develop would have to be moved a little farther back, but you could still have the same lot coverage. We're not changing that with this ordinance.
I'm just telling you that if those were to be sold off as in this real estate market, every square foot that you take away that's not developable reduces the value.
But I don't think we're changing, and somebody help me on this, I don't think we're changing the developable area of the lots. We're just changing where on the lot it can be developed.
Well, let's go to West Beach, and then I can say the same thing there.
I was going to point out to your point, Roger, the overlay here would be the only element of when we're looking at the sanctuary here, it would be that existing pool, and so that would carry on fairly consistent with the rest of the East Beach Ocean parcel.
Right, and so that would tell you that the pools that we built there at the ocean course, when they were built, were much further away.
The sanctuary, ocean course.
Oh, the sanctuary, yes, the sanctuary. Right now, it's in jeopardy because of what you're saying, it's in the second zone.
And that's the point that I think that's the point that we're trying to accomplish is resetting where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at where the lines are on that undeveloped property, you still have whatever rights are attributable to that lot. That doesn't change. So I don't understand why it'd be worth less. You can just, because you can't build any more on it if there weren't an overlay zone. You can only build so much on that lot. So this is just saying you can build what's entitled, but you just have to move it back a little bit. So I don't understand why that
overlay
makes it less.
will accomplish the same thing as the rear setback.
Pardon?
If there's a setback amount on the rear of on that part of the building, does it get? Can you count it in your?
For this particular parcel, you're looking at the rear setbacks of the RST1, which you have set back. You're going to be, I'm going to say exact, but you'd be pretty consistent with what that requires.
Okay. But it can be used for that. Okay. Can we go to the West Beach property?
Yeah.
And then I'll stop talking, maybe.
Continue to walk the beach just in case there's another stop along the way.
We really value all the input. You know, we miss.
I appreciate you listening.
On the golf courses, we missed that one. So we appreciate you.
The West Beach is kind of a unique parcel because of the way that the parcels sit down there, and we have a parcel or a part of it that is zoned PR close to the dune and
No.
right.
Now, this stretch along Eugenia, I do think this is a candidate for reflection on the impact and the dimension of, my first question to the group was, how did you arrive at 50 feet? Because 50 feet here is considerably different than Osprey Beach, because the conditions are different. I'm just posing that as a question.
And Mark, given that being factually correct, any thoughts or suggestions as how you might address that? Again, to John's point, I think the Planning Commission is trying to achieve some overall consistency in approach, but to solve for that, because let's stop, John, back up a little bit. Just back up a little bit. Just literally just a couple of feet.
Versus a couple steps.
You're supposed to say, Siri, stop.
Okay. To solve for that, because what you'll see here in a couple of things, which is, animated, I believe, some of this is now there's a substantial amount of redevelopment going a little bit further that is in the process of occurring. And in some cases, you'll see, stop. Right there, one, you'll see some others where you're clearly seeing building in to new development and expansion
Right.
into the back of the crest of the primary dune. And in a couple cases, you go a little further, John, where there's almost, the new build has almost completely eliminated, right, there's one, just back a couple feet, another one, where there's almost no primary dune anymore, and kind of building right up to that. You'll see another one, grass area up there, where they've cut back in, flattened out the back of the primary dune. And the question is, do you do more of that and kind of the next storm surge? We have something worse than the December nor'easter, December 23 nor'easter. We dodged a couple of bullets here where you're getting a substantial inundation. Then how does that impact kind of the overall property values? We clearly don't want to, and we're a long way from North Carolina beachfront where you see properties kind of falling into the ocean. But at least at this area, to your point, different conditions. You know, you could certainly see a nearer term risk, and if you had a significant storm surge, what would be the impact? And is there a public interest in addressing these situations where you can see where you're clearly carving out portions of the primary dune, and our existing zoning code appears to allow that.
But not the dune protection ordinances. Our ordinances do not allow you to cut into the dunes.
Well, our zoning ordinance does not prohibit it. I mean, it allows for that flat area to go right up, I believe, John, to the property line?
Yeah, I think there's a question on when folks just throw out dune, I'm not saying there's a very definition, but when someone says dune versus where this person's highlands as, I think that in their buildable area, I think that's the difference that probably needs to be threaded as we go through this exercise.
But Mark, I mean, I do, seriously, if you have some thoughts about, you know, how to solve for all of this and do so in a way that's kind of consistent across the ocean front, we're recognizing, you're absolutely right, there are existing conditions. You know, that's part of the challenge here.
I definitely,
Stop a second, hey, John. One of the things you see here that's obvious is the homes are built almost on a straight line with each other. There's a relationship between them that, and I don't know if it was zoning, I don't know what it was that allowed it, that caused it to be, but those houses, for all intent and purposes, are lined up along there. And what's changed is the erosion pattern of the dune closer to some houses than others. So it would appear that the building of the homes has followed a pattern that, I mean, it's there, you can't change it.
Are you referring to the homes along Eugenia?
The ones we're looking at.
It would be the setbacks
Well,
there.
and if you also look at the older homes versus the newer homes along Eugenia, you will see the older homes sit further back, whereas the newer homes are closer to the beachfront.
well, I mean, this is, in this area, as we know, there are some that are subject to ARB and some that aren't.
Some that aren't.
Right.
But they are also, John Mark, as you know, part of the challenge is each parcel is separately platted and has its own, which I just learned a month ago, has its own unique, sad for me, its own unique setbacks, whether side, rear, or front. And in some cases, only 10-foot side setbacks. But what we have seen here is a pattern, and as Mary Beth noted, is that older homes tended to be set back along this area a little bit further from the ocean. More recent homes, redevelopment, tear downs and redevelopment, and some that were undeveloped properties have been built much closer to the ocean, and not just the structure itself, but they've taken full advantage heretofore of the zoning essentially the exception to go encroach all the way in this. There's no setback. You can go right up to the property line with respect to yards and patios, surface patios.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, we are supposed to start our planning commission meeting at 2 o'clock. I think what we need to do here is we will have another workshop. We are going to continue to evaluate Lucas, are there any other brief comments? Anything, anyone, I don't know what all of you are here for, but if you have any other input, we welcome it. Please send it to John, to me, to the mayor. But we are going to continue to look at this to fine tune it. This is still something, just so you're aware, we are going to do. We do want to do it. It's something the community has asked for. And it needs some tweaks. And we're going to, and Mr. Warren, I'd be happy to sit down with you and talk more about this.
Yeah, I just want to, if you can, answer the question about what view are we protecting?
I thought it was, you know, the length of the beachfront to prevent big buildings along the beachfront.
Yeah.
You know, as things get built closer and closer to the beachfront.
There's two primary, I think, perspectives to what I've heard when we think about the view. It's one, with the conversation that we've had now, adjacent neighbor to adjacent neighbor, of folks, well, they're inching a little bit closer, now my view has been impacted. And then primarily what we've seen where there's
Everybody goes a little closer.
What we've seen down on the west end, where if I'm standing on the west end looking down east, the building profile and natural environment now seems to be carved on or encroached on. And so I think when you look down the entire beach profile, are you able to kind of see a consistent gradual change of the natural environment to the built environment? So that's the view from a integrity standpoint of the entire beachfront.
I understand that, and I would just say that I think in the standards that the island was built for, the common question about view was anybody who built on the ocean was entitled to a view the width of their property.
Right.
There was no guarantee to a longitudinal view. And so when you want to try to solve a problem now to create a longitudinal view, all of the things that have been built in prior to this didn't have that requirement. And it's because of that, it's almost difficult to make that a goal of it. If it's preserving everybody's view toward the ocean, that's pretty well done already. So that's what's always confused me about this commitment to a view, which this meets that the way we've developed the island has met that criteria. And in terms of, and I would just say this may not be an appropriate way to say it, but I would hope as a future developer here, I don't have to be held accountable for mistakes that were happened in another place and have a policy built around that and have that applied to us. And I think that's a difficult pill to swallow.
All right.
I would only add, and I'll be brief.
You have to move
I know. I would only add that I would put Kiowa's beachfront up to any other East Coastal beach of like-kind development patterns. We can learn from others, but I would put our beachfront up against anyone else.
And
We look forward to collaborating.
Okay, and Mary Beth, when you're back, and perhaps we can sit down with Mr. Warren and talk about some of this stuff.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to, just for the record, incorporate Mr. Hazel's comments into the record for the public workshop.
That's fine. And we're not going to talk about parking standards today. That is going to be another separate workshop. Any additional public comments? Motion to adjourn from the workshop? All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, we're now moving on to our official planning commission meeting. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll? Here.
Here.
Mary Beth?
Here.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna go home.
Okay, approval of the minutes from the November 5 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Were there any abstentions? Was everybody here? All right, public comment on the agenda items for this meeting. Are there any public comments at this point in time? Okay. Old business, stormwater management, phase 2 update. John? And this is, Mr. Babinek has been working with John on this.
Very brief on this front. As you all know, we've started engaging with Weston and Sampson. We'll have an update, staff check-in, and Mr. Babinek and one other, Mr. Ryan will join us in that, engaging with Weston and Sampson, sort of a check-in period. But to date, Weston and Sampson is doing sort of a gathering of information. As you know, we shared our last Planning Commission meeting, well, workshop. We had a workshop with the Conservancy specifically on marsh analysis, and that particular information will be forwarded to Weston, or has been forwarded to Weston and Sampson. So right now, we're still continuing sort of an information gathering stage. We'll have a check-in in a week and a half, or a week, the 18th. After that, we'll have a better rhythm to be able to update the commission on next steps. But right now, just kind of a to be determined and engaging on the initial preliminary stages.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Looking forward to our call on the 18th, Weston and Sampson, yep.
Okay. The enhanced protection for beachfront and environmentally sensitive areas, phase 2 update.
Yeah, I would probably echo, if those had an opportunity to hear Ms. Kay's comments yesterday at Town Council meeting. Essentially, one being the beachfront of our workshop that we just had. That's one phase. The second phase, us looking at the marsh front. Those are two separate initiatives. There's been some commentary that they're being sort of run tangentially and being approved together. Those are two separate sort of initiatives, the beachfront and the marsh front. As we just had our workshop, we'll continue to engage on the beachfront overlay as recommended. And then the work that's being studied regarding the marshfront properties, that's also in a stage of gathering information and data. As referenced, we met with the Conservancy. Lee Bundrick gave a presentation on marsh vulnerability analysis. We'll have a few scheduled meetings to try to get some engineers in that have been working more closely with different types of marsh or areas on the island to be able to have a comparative analysis. So we're still in the very, very early stages of anything. And we don't anticipate any recommendation to be brought forth within the next several months regarding the marsh specifically itself.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, new business. We have a zoning map text amendment application for a key dock location at 245 Eagle Point. We've got a whole bunch of pictures and
Daniel.
Oh, Daniel, you're going to go through this? Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first application today is application REZ 25-000001 and AZO 25-000014. These will be read in tandem, and then we can vote on them separately at the end. The applicant, property owner Jonathan and Lisa Whites, represented by Mary Shade, are requesting two amendments. The first amendment is the rezoning. They're requesting to amend section 1262 zoning map to amend the key locations map, modifying the fixed dock designation to allow for a floating dock location. This is at the subject property, which is 245 Eagle Point Road. TMS number is 265-02-00-167. Property size is approximately 1.7 acres. It is located in the R1 residential zoning district. And its current key location designation is a fixed dock location. at Eagle Point East, and that is letter G. Their second request is a request to amend section 1278, which is the dock key locations table, and that is to modify the fixed dock designation to allow for a floating dock at the subject property. Just to give some background on Kiwa Island's fixed key dock locations map. Kiwa Island's unique in that we have many rivers, creeks, and marshes. They're defining features of the island, and they're highly sensitive areas. They support critical wildlife habitats and provide great value to the town and its residents. When the town originally adopted this key dock locations map in 1991, the goal was to prevent uncontrolled growth of private docks and ensure that all docks were placed in a consistent and predictable manner. The dock key locations map, along with the tables 2N and 2O in section 1278, are the town's zoning documents that govern where docks, fixed or floating, are allowed.
Excuse me for a second, Daniel.
Yep.
G is the one we're looking to modify, correct?
That's correct.
On the, I haven't seen these pictures, it looks like G is in front of 243.
That is correct. It's in front of 245 and 243.
So it's a shared dock, or
It's a
Location. So
key location, but 243 doesn't have a dock?
243 does not have a dock.
So G, where this existing dock that we see pictures of, that is located in front of 245. So this is really a bad picture then, because there is nothing in front of 243.
You said that.
Well, it shows G, it shows there's a key dock location. It looks like we're
Page 12.
moving it from 243 to 245. That's what it looks like on this exhibit.
Page 12.
I think that whole area is the key location.
13.
Oh,
It could be anywhere in that location.
So,
I think that's the key location.
But I'm
Meaning it can be, we'll just continue.
So who gets the dock, 243 or 245?
they can
First
both
one
have
does
that.
it.
So let me just clarify one thing. The key locations are not specifically for a specific dock. It's for a actual location. So you might have several docks under that one key location. So for this particular key location G, the opportunity for a dock relies with 243 and 245.
So there could be two docks
There
there?
could be two docks there.
Okay. So by doing away with G and moving it to 37, that is totally on 245. Does 243 want to do a dock, or is that?
At the end of the presentation, we'll make a recommendation to fix that problem.
Okay.
Okay. So there are two dock types in this key dock locations map. One of them is a fixed docks. Those are identified by letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way through AA. These are generally intended for fishing and crabbing only, and they have no movable parts. The other designation is a floating dock. These are identified by numbers, 1, 2, 3, etc. These are generally have a separate floating pontoon or platform attached to them, which rises and falls with the tides. These are generally suitable for mooring small watercraft. The applicant, Mary Shade, is requesting to amend the Town of Kiwa Island's land use planning and zoning ordinance to allow for a floating dock on property located at 245 Eagle Point. Subject property is currently developed with a single-family residence constructed in 2009. The subject property currently contains a fixed dock. which is allowed pursuant to Table 2O in that Section 1278. The existing dock is a fixed dock, which is a 4x221 walkway, and it consists of a walkway and a pier head. The existing dock was permitted this year, January 28th, 2025. The subject property was issued a violation on September 19th, 2025 regarding an installation of a slide moor system to the fixed dock. On September 24th, the violation was corrected by the property owner. In your case materials, the applicant has submitted a preliminary permit drawing for the proposed modification of a recreational floating dock located at 245 Eagle Point. The proposed drawing includes a C-pin floating dock lift to replace the existing fixed pier head and a proposed floating ramp landing. Here's an aerial view of the subject property. Here's a zoning map.
And the dock is where on the property?
It's a little hard to see on here, but there's a black sliver located
Okay.
in the middle of
thank you.
245. That's
Got
where
it.
approximately where the dock is.
Yeah, and my understanding is that this dock was built smaller than the pier head's a lot smaller than they were allowed to build. So they built this. So are you going to be taking down the pier head? You know, I'm looking at the picture of the floating dock. So
Well,
does the pier head?
Staff will finish the presentation, then we'll defer to the applicant on some questions. So these are some site photos that staff took.
Straight to vote now.
Picture 1 on the top left is a picture of the subject property, 245. And then pictures 4 and 6 are of the neighboring property at 243. The proposed amendment would allow for a new floating dock quay location at Table 2N, and that designation would be a new designation, which we would call 37 Eagle Point North, and that would be on site at Lot 245. The proposed amendment would also eliminate the fixed dock designation for Lot 245, modifying Table 2O. Here's the current key locations map. As you can see, its G is surrounding a part of 243 and all of 245. And that consists of 600 linear feet of allowed frontage for a dock. This is the proposed dock key location map, which is adding 37, as well as keeping G at the neighboring property at 243.
So you're keeping G because you took away G on these drawings.
We're getting there. So pursuant to Section 12-158, the Planning Commission shall review the proposed text amendment and or zoning map amendment and take action recommending that the Town Council approve or deny the proposed amendment. Pursuant to Section 12-158, after receiving the recommendation of from the Planning Commission, the Town Council shall hold one or more public hearings at any time after the close of the public hearing to take action to approve with modifications, or deny the proposed amendment based on the approval criteria. We'll move on to the approval criteria. Pursuant to Section 12-158, text and zoning map amendments to the ordinance may be approved if the following approval criteria have been met. Criteria A is the proposed amendment is consistent with the purposes and intent of the adopted Town of Kiawah Islands Comprehensive Plan. B is the proposed amendment is consistent with the purposes and intent of this article. C, the purpose of the proposed amendment is to further the general health, safety, and welfare of the town of Kiowa. And D, the proposed amendment corrects an error or inconsistency or meets the challenges of a changed condition. Planning staff finds that the proposed map amendment satisfies the approval criteria of the first request, which is the new map. Planning staff finds that the proposed text amendment also satisfies the next request, which is the text amendment, and recommends approval with the following condition. That condition is key location 37 is established with an authorized shoreline of 50 linear feet for the subject property, and the existing key location G is reduced from 600 linear feet to 200 linear feet of authorized shoreline. Does that answer your question, Ms.
Well,
Henson?
I'm looking on page 11, and it still shows G 600 feet. Should that be changed to 200 feet and the site be changed to 243? Just to have that.
Consistent to staff's recommendation.
Yep, that's correct. So we would
So
modify
that
that.
chart needs to be changed.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. So on that chart, G, you're going to change the authorized shoreline to 200 feet.
Yep.
And the dock authorized, the site is going to be 243 in case they ever want to do the dock.
That's correct.
Okay.
Daniel, on slide 12, right, if you go there, are there any other floating docks on that creek that's coming off the Stono River there?
Are you talking about the small tributary
Yeah.
swerving down? There are no other docks along that small tributary coming from the Stono. There is a key location at number 36, but there is no dock there currently.
And 36 would be directly on the river.
Right. 36 would be directly off the Stono. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I'll let Ms. Shade come up and make some comments.
I just wanted to, I looked at the existing dock, and it looks like pierhead will be smaller with the floating dock. Do you do away with the pierhead? Is the floating dock lower? Somebody want to?
This is Mr. Whites. I know he would like to answer these questions for you, if that's okay.
Please.
Okay. Hi, how are y'all? Do I come here?
Yeah, come here and just introduce yourself and your address.
Yes, Jonathan Whites, 245 Eagle Point. To answer your question, yes, the proposed plan that I think is in your package shows the complete removal of the 100-foot pierhead plus an additional 35 feet of elevated walkway. And basically the main point is to be able to actually access the 100-foot creek, whether for boat storage or for a kayak, and also reduce the view impact on any neighbor. So
Yeah, it looks like it's lower than what you have now. So that's
right. So the entire elevated fixed pier would be removed, and an additional 35 feet of elevated walkway would be removed to provide for a ramp down to a floating dock at water level.
Yeah, I think it. Does anybody have any questions, issues, problems with it?
The only concern I have is, so last week we had, are we in discussion now? Or? Okay.
Well, you want to
Well, I make a motion. I guess we have to move. May I have a motion for approval?
I move we approve the recommendation of referencing these two cases.
Do we have a second?
I have a question.
First, we have a second.
I have a second.
Okay, now we have discussion. Go ahead, Dean, and then Sandy.
So, oh, sorry. My wife always tells me I talk loud, so I'm used to it. Last week we had a presentation from concerns about marshes. The marsh in this area granted, it's a very high level, their analysis. It's identified as a marsh to protect, okay? And my concern is that, do we first do the marsh study before we permit any changes to existing docks in this area?
You know, I had a little back and forth with the applicant on, because I anticipated we'd have some environmental impact questions, and my understanding, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, is that this dock does not go down to the bottom, even at low tide. It will still be floating, so it does not impact the floor of the marsh. Would you like to expand on that?
My name's Mary Shade. I'm sorry. It would be much less impactful. As Mr. White's noted, you're removing multiple pilings, you're shortening the walkway, and then instead of a pier head on great big pilings, you have a ramp and a float. But as you noted, the float will not ever touch the bottom. So in fact, this change is much less impactful than what exists there now in terms of marsh or mudflat impact.
But if the dock is being used to store either a powerboat or other equipment, that equipment could potentially have an impact on the marsh from waves and things like that, no?
So have you looked at the photographs of what's called a C-pin, the floating dock? It's a C-pin.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so the boat actually rests inside a structure, and that prevents a lot of concern about leaks from the boat or impacts from the boat bottom.
Ms. Devine?
I mean, they're still be able to put a boat in.
Use your mic.
Yes, but,
Use your mic.
This is very specific to this dock, not setting up a precedent for potentially affecting decision-making in the future.
That's correct. Any other requests would be site-specific, and we'd have to look at it. We're not adding any docks. I don't think there's appetite to add docks on the island, but this is an existing dock, and by doing this, there's less of a dock than there is now. Any further questions? We have a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed.
One opposed, any abstention? Okay, it passes 6-1.
Actually, two, the zoning and the
Motion captured both.
Oh, he motioned.
They presented in parallel.
We're efficient. Okay, the next item, ordinance 2025-21, the proposed beach overlay. We've had the first reading on this. We just had the workshop. I think we all know we have to do some more work on this. Would you like to discuss it any more at this point? Should we talk about another workshop? Or should we just come up with data?
I've noted the things that I've heard during the workshop, and I think maybe as we originally started, maybe Ms. Marshall and whomever you would say we can put our heads together around what we heard and then schedule a workshop to kind of maybe present some thoughts around what we've heard and then have an opportunity for public to still submit in between now and whenever that workshop is scheduled to submit some things to us for additional information and context.
Yeah.
I agree with that, John.
Okay, and I want to emphasize, this is something we want to get done. We want to do it right, but we don't want it to drag out. So we are going to expeditiously, as well as we can, gather more data and get this moving. Any further discussion on this for now?
I would think it's going to be kind of hard to come to consensus on what people think is an acceptable view.
And we'll just have to, we'll just do, I mean, we're never going to please everybody.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We know that, but we want to make sure, you know, like we missed the thing on the golf course. That was a miss. So there's some things we can fix. We've gotten a lot of input pro and con. I went to the regime council meeting and talked to them about the overlay, and they all seem to be fine with it. I've had, and I don't know if any of you've had, I've had individual requests from property owners to see if their property was impacted, and I have not had, other than the few negatives that have come through in writing, and there was a positive feedback from someone on Eugenia as well. The feedback has been remarkably positive. That this is something people want done. So some people are going to be unhappy no matter what we do, but we are going to get something done. Can it be better than what we have right now? Yeah, we can make some improvements.
So I was focusing on Councilman Broner's comment about what are we trying to achieve. And there were 4 points that were made. Consistent visual, spatial, and ecological transition, protecting the beachfront, coastal resilience, and maintaining ocean views. I looked at that and I said, okay, there are 2, I think, that are pretty, they'll be easy to base things on, which is protect the beachfront. I think there'll be consensus on that, and coastal resiliency, which is also important because we know in the dynamic environment we're in, that's important. I think the thing that's going to be the most difficult to get consensus on is maintaining ocean views for the public view, because that's an aesthetic. That is it's an opinion, and I think that. And then the third one is, which I think is something I think we are going to address because of the issues that were brought forward, is that we want consistent visual, spatial, and ecological transitions. But was brought up, there may be some opportunities to tune that to specific, elements. So I think it's important to have that next layer, and I think recognizing that probably 2 of them are no-brainers. One of them is, I think we can do some specific studies by property. And the third one is I think we do our best job to maintain the aesthetic of maintaining ocean views for the public in general.
I had a similar comment. I actually thought our mayor did a really superb job of summarizing what we were solving for in his email. I would recommend dropping the views, because to me that's not as compelling a case for a change right now. The other items are, and rather than kind of go down a rat hole in trying to defend that one that might be a bit weaker, I would really crystallize around things that are really going to drive action and motivate change. And I also agree with you that not everyone's going to be happy. We know that. No one can. What I took away from today's workshop is focusing on the West Beach and focusing on Royal Beach as 2 very different situations. But stating the obvious, the trickier part here is going to be solving for the West Beach. And so, in terms of data gathering and just ensuring that there's really a solid case for change, whatever emerges from that, it feels like we have to kind of do double duty on that piece.
I think you're right, and the view thing will be automatically solved by addressing the other one. So you're right, we shouldn't, I think both of you are right on that there's no need to focus on that per se.
I only ask one question, is that I didn't hear any, Roger alluded to it, but in one of the communications that came in our packet, there seemed to be some indication that there's some people who think that this is a property rights issue. Did anybody else get that issue?
Yes.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So we'll have our crack town attorney all over that one?
Yeah, this is something.
Just one other point. Eugenia will be harder to solve for, but it's the most, that's what has to get solved for. Because, and I walk it practically every day. But I think it was particularly compelling to see the aerial views and to really see how close to the dunes some of these, new houses are. I think that's very compelling.
Was it because of the fact that that there was no architectural review board on Eugenia? Why those properties that the mayor was pointing out that was built right up to the, not so much the building or structure,
I don't know why they were
but
approved. Some were approved that shouldn't have been. They
approved by
didn't.
whom? That's my question.
I think there's 2 factors. One being the dynamics of the ocean front in that particular section, as we've alluded to, forget now, after Irma, when we did the scraping, that revealed that the escarpment of that particular primary dune, you would see how close those homes, whether they were built in the 80s or they were built in the 2000s, how close they were to the dune. Over time, what we've seen is the smaller homes that were done earlier are naturally further back because of the scale of them. So even though.
But my point was the new ones he pointed out, where they were, you know,
the new ones that are there, I mean, they're all in that same line. I mean, it's just that they're larger in scale.
But weren't
It's
there
in the line,
some
but
that
it's the
were built
pools
to
and the
their
yards.
setback
Exactly,
lines, and they weren't supposed to be?
They are not really in the same line, some of the bigger, newer houses.
The older homes don't really have the pools and the decks and.
But that's the point, the
expensive-
homes might be sort of on the line.
Yeah.
But it's everything this way. And I can't speak for ARB and what was approved or not approved.
They're
but
not
we're
subject to
talking
ARB.
We're talking about the part of Eugenia that's the paved part of Eugenia that I think is all subject to ARB. Is it not the unpaved part where you have a number of parcels there?
They're kind of.
Kind of mixed up?
There's a lot.
They had to opt in to keep that.
So then the approvals then strictly came from the county zoning regulations, right?
Well, the town.
The undeveloped county-owned?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the ones who approved those. Okay.
Heard, Mary Beth.
Okay, so where are we?
Oh, no, my comments, I think we can work on our language a bit in describing what we're trying to accomplish. I agree with that. I think there are a couple of other things that we should go back and vet and just make sure we really have thought it through. Obviously, we missed the golf course when the landscaping adjustments were made. But I think that the work we need to do, we can put our heads together and work on promptly and keep moving.
I agree. Any other comments?
Well, I was reflecting on what the mayor said, you know, all it's going to take is one big storm on Eugenia. Right. And those people who got encroached into the back of those dunes and it's gone from the front of the dune, and they get impacted, they're going to be the ones screaming for a bulkhead or this or that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they'll be the first ones that'll complain that, oh, the dune is gone.
Right, right.
So,
And I guess-
so anyway, that's just a rhetorical comment. I mean, they're you know, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
I would like to just ask Mark. Mark, Roger was making the point about that parcel next to there, thinking that it was going to reduce his economic interest. I didn't understand it. Could you kind of get us some information of what he was thinking?
I think he was simply saying there's less, in theory, there's less land to be considered
Okay, in
for
theory.
development.
What about in practicality?
I don't think there is, though, because he's still entitled to whatever entitlements are with RST1 or.
I was answering the question. I think we can, between today and when we get together again, we could show evidence of, well, what is the impact? And like you're saying, it may be zero.
Yeah, because
that
they
was the
can
question.
still have the lot coverage based on.
Looking at the aerials and the flats, and I mean, the width of the lines on those aerial photographs is like 10 feet.
Yeah, it's very narrow.
So, but if we look at it precisely, we can show evidence of what the real impact could.
Clarify the point, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you still can't overbuild the lot. If whatever your lot coverage percentage allowed should allow for that strip to be left alone.
But that's where he was coming from.
Is it all one lot, or is it subdivided?
Between the Sanctuary Hotel and Windswept?
Yeah.
It's actually two parcels. One where the Sanctuary Hotel is proper,
Okay.
and then there's another parcel that is adjacent to it, owned by the same entity.
Right.
But there are two parcels there.
And there was the property rights question again. Mac, I don't know if you want to weigh in or leave this for now, but
I will say Ross Appel and I both have looked at this, given some of the prior comments that come in, and give it like in its current form, we're not really concerned about it. People like to throw out the terms taking and that sort of thing, but I do think we've got valid reasons for this, and it will likely be upheld, but I agree with you that given some of the public comments, there are some things we could probably tweak and make it better.
Yeah, and also on Eugenia, for all the ones, for almost all, there are some exceptions, but for the majority of them, vast majority, the overlay, if they were to want to tear down a house and rebuild, they still, single-family residential is allowed at 33% lot coverage. You can get your 33% lot coverage just moving the house back, and you can still build a multi-million-dollar house in the front. So there's no economic value lost there. It would just mean you'd have to move where.
So you'll make an incursion into the front setbacks.
Right, right. But those lots are pretty deep. They're pretty deep. Okay, anything else on that?
Do we need a motion to table it?
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
You have to table both.
On the agenda.
Okay, well, let's do this one. So, may I have a motion?
So motion to table ordinance number 2025-21.
Second. Any further discussion on this? We will get together and figure out next steps in a timely manner, so that hopefully by our January meeting, we will be able to move something to town council. That would be the goal, and town council will deal with it in their February.
Do we have to defer the ordinance 20, the one on parking?
Let's do one at a time. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous. We've tabled this to the January meeting. Is that officially called table date specific? Anyway, Robert's rules. Okay, next, ordinance 2025-23, the modified minimum parking standards. We had we've been waiting, when we did this a month ago, the resort was going to give us some information.
Right.
I haven't gotten anything.
I know Roger's team was working on something, but I don't know what the status of it is.
Okay, because again, this is not something we're going to let drag out forever. We do need
No, understand. I'll bring it up with Roger.
Okay. John, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I mean, I think it'd be sort of in the same rhythm. We reschedule a workshop and provide a recommendation based on what we hear from that workshop, just like.
Okay. Yeah, this one isn't as complicated as the beach overlay. There were some issues, particularly as regards shared parking. But I thought we had all agreed that we were going to focus parking on quantity.
Yeah, we have to remove some of the.
Yeah, okay,
We have to remove some of the
it
permeable
because
language from this, yeah.
the parking regulations are going to focus on parking quantity.
Stormwater will focus
The
on-
surfaces are going to be folded into stormwater management because permeable makes sense some places and not others, so.
If you want me to clarify that, I can, if you want me to.
But, yeah.
So we incorporated that. We actually got recommendation, if you all recall, of the pervious element to move forward, and town council sent it back to you guys, but town council actually supported the pervious element. Planning commissioner is one who kind of curtailed back. And so what we have done, and you see the difference in color, the items in blue are things that already have been reviewed. The items in red were the new language that was being recommended. So what I'm hearing from the commission is uncertainty or unreadiness to incorporate the pervious. What staff still supports the pervious moving forward. We did have some conversations about maybe just the parking spaces, not any of the drive aisles or that type of thing. So there wasn't a significant variant. But what I hear is that we'll pull back on the pervious, incorporate that in sort of our global stormwater approach, and then address the merits of the parking minimum requirements and design in this upcoming ordinance. That's what
I think it's cleaner that way because we've talked about it, and Gina's closer to this, that there's so much variety among the different lots on the island.
Just want to share that we wouldn't have any ability for any current significant projects to be able to push them to pervious, but I understand the sentiment.
Well, then we'll try and get this done as expeditiously as possible.
I'll stay up.
Okay, so can I have a motion to table the parking requirements?
I'll make a motion to table the parking requirement.
We are all moving on this one. Okay, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Well, just a
Oh, wait,
question.
sorry,
Just a
Larry.
question, do we need to then take the blue out of this text that you presented to us?
What we'll do is present a new draft based on what we
For
heard,
the,
yeah.
for the.
For the
the
workshop, for
upcoming-
the next upcoming.
Okay.
No. All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondent staff comments? John, anything on development projects or?
Yes, the major thing I want to highlight is what occurred at town council yesterday. If you guys did not have opportunity to tune into town council meeting, one of the debated issues that you guys made recommendation on establishing the design review board that did receive approval. And so between now and the new year, we'll be working to have that implemented. We have to advertise for members and whatnot, recruit for membership. The one amendment, if you will, that town council did make is that in a period before now or before June 30th of next year, should the Architectural Review Board does transition to KICA, and town council would come back to evaluate and consider amending the ordinance so that it would sort of exempt or exclude properties that would be subject to the KICA covenant. So that's kind of a tandem, if you will, of ensuring that there's continued dialogue between the community association and the Architectural Review Board of that transition. Questions there?
So the DRB is effective immediately or pending staffing? Or?
It's effective immediately, yes. So let's just say we have a commercial project that's submitted tomorrow, it would technically be subject to the DRB. The only other update regarding development projects, we're nearing, I think I shared this last time, we're still nearing issuance of or final approvals for 3 projects. Those have not gotten those yet, which are Night Heron Park, Seafields, and MUSC. Seafields is very close.
Right?
They have a conditional CEO to be able to load furniture and that type of thing, staff. And then MUSC will have their ribbon cutting week or 12, yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so they're near. We did a walkthrough on landscaping this week on Seafield. So things are getting close to nearing. Ocean Pines is still continuing to work. Those are major development projects. The one other thing that I have in my notes is regarding the urban growth boundary. You guys have heard me talk about this for several meetings now. I did have an opportunity to reconvene with the county, and so we're working on draft language that we'll be able to share at least with the staffs to be comfortable, and then once the staffs get comfortable, we'll be able to share that with each of our legal teams and make sure that we're in alignment. But the purpose of that is to really get on the same page from a coordination standpoint regarding urban growth boundary and seeing how we can ensure that the jurisdictions are working together to not allow a developer to quote unquote shop in or outside of the urban growth boundary. And that will, the county's anticipation is using that for working with Kiowa and Seabrook is to be able to use that as a precedent for other parts of the county. We don't know, they don't have the same issues that we have on Betsy Harrison, but we'll see how that unfolds. That's all I have. I don't know, Patricia, you want to share anything resiliency? I know this month's resiliency meeting will be canceled. Well, if you want to.
I didn't make the November meeting, so I
okay.
can't add much to it. Any updates on the roadway out here, discussions with the state?
Yes and no. No real progress has been made. We're still working through documents and whatnot with the entities, but the effort is still moving forward.
Thank you, John. Public comments. Little is left of the public. Anything KICA related you want to share with us?
Well, maybe just a little bit. I'm glad that you are tabling a couple of those things because a lot of things are happening right now very quickly. And one of KICA's members is the resort, and a lot of this is coming down hard on them. And we want to support them. I'm glad that you're listening to Roger today, and he's got issues with the parking, with the ARB, with the beach overlay. So there's a lot. He's got the only only parcels that are left for commercial development. So when we're talking about commercial development, we're talking about the resort. So Kika is trying to support him and trying to go to bat for him to make sure that he's heard and that we're doing what we can to support his concerns. So thank you for listening, and please continue to do that. There's no rush on any of this stuff. Let's keep talking about it and make sure we get it right. And on the beach overlay, I just want to be sure we really need it. If what we have in zoning and other restrictions already accomplishes this, I just don't know if it's necessary. But if it is, I'll keep listening, and you can convince me. The sandcastle it's non-conforming now. That adult pool is out in zone A, right? Bad zone, where it's not supposed to be.
It can be there.
It is, but if Roger tries to build a hotel that has an oceanfront infinity pool, it won't be able to look like the sandcastles. He will have to move it back, and I'm sure that's what he's thinking, that he would like to have an oceanfront pool, and it will just have to be back further. So whether that's more attractive or not, or worth less, maybe. In his eyes, it might be.
With the proposed
I
addition to
don't think it's
sandcastle?
that impactful. I really don't think it's that impactful,
Yeah,
Sharon.
and
We're talking 50 feet. I mean, some of that footage is already.
And I guess it's more of what he expected to be able to do, and now that's changed.
Well, I would just also contend that the sanctuary pool right now, I would have to calculate how much of that area that it covers, and I can't do that with the information I have. But the sanctuary pool's in pretty good shape.
Sanctuary, yes. Sandcastle, no.
Oh, no. But relative to Roger being able to have an oceanfront pool in another plot that he develops, I don't think this keeps that from happening.
yeah, I don't see it. There's
Anyway,
still
but keep listening to him.
The proposed addition to sandcastle, would that be impacted by PD overlay?
Parking. We're worried that it's going to be infected by parking, because right now at the sandcastle, we have those tandem parking spaces that are trying to make up our quota. And we don't think, because it's uncovered parking, we hope that since it's just decking, but then Shannon said that we may have to have additional parking because of it. We're very worried about that, because we thought by having it be an outdoor pavilion, not heated nor cooled, that we would not need additional parking. And if we do, we have no place to put it. So, and that's the other thing about the parking ordinance, where shared parking, if we're allowed to have parking on a different parcel, that would be necessary. We would have to apply for a variance, and hopefully we could get it. So yeah, we're concerned about that.
Keep talking to us.
Yep.
Okay, any other public? Okay, commissioner comments.
I have a question. And it's about parking. At the last meeting we had, Roger talked a bit that one day they had 500 people and cars were everywhere. And he made it sound like that was just a one-off situation.
This at West Beach? Okay.
The week before Thanksgiving, he had 2 luncheons, I think, for 500 people, because there were 2 days where there were cars everywhere. And my question is, what right do they actually have to use all of that vacant land as a parking lot?
So which lane?
The lot across from Cougar Point.
Cougar?
Of course,
The old-
from Cougar.
the old inn.
They own that property.
The old inn.
But I mean, I own my property too, but I can't turn my yard into a parking lot.
That property is being used for parking based on the approvals for the conference center and the hotel site. So the Cougar site, it's temporary parking. It's just, that's what it's being used for now, as based on what was submitted for the spaces that would be used for, between those 3 parcels. Now, whether or not they're doing parking more than what was there is something I don't know.
I only raise it because if it's truly a one-off once in a while, it's one thing, but if it becomes a common thing,
I thought you were getting like cars are parked in the right of way or in the street or somebody else's neighborhood, that type of thing.
No, they were just sort of parked all over the dunes.
Yeah.
Well, not the dunes, but the property adjacent to the road, and it wasn't part of not part of the Cougar overflow parking lot, and it wasn't part of the lot next to Shipwatch. It was literally just on the vacant land.
We should bring that up at the
You
parking
can
workshop.
let me know what area you're talking about.
It'd be interesting if that goes.
You let me know which area. We can chat and see exactly which area you're talking
We're just sort of right across, if you're coming down to the traffic circle, and if you went straight ahead, straight through the traffic circle, all that land in there,
Yeah,
where
the old inn
they
park.
planted some shrubs.
Exactly.
They planted some shrubs across from Cougar back when they had the fence to try to make it look more attractive. And now, I mean, there were cars all over the place.
Mr. Imler?
Just want to say happy holidays to everybody. My last holiday with you guys.
No. Don't remind him.
Yeah.
No comments here, thank you.
Mary Beth, any commissioner comments?
No additional comments. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, and I'd just like to say I'm glad the town approved the DRB, and for public consumption, there's been a lot of talk about this. The town has worked with Kika and the property owners for 3 years now. There've been a joint task force, and because things have gotten stalled, the town has gone ahead to address commercial and multifamily, and I think this is of great benefit to the community. And with that, Larry, we're not going to let you off the hook yet. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
That we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you all very much. Whew. Well, that wasn't too bad.
Terry, did you see Brad's memo about why the ordinance exceeded the overlay?
Well, I knew it.
Nice job of laying out why the current regulatory framework is not good enough.
Oh, God, no. No questions, no questions, no comments.
Yeah, his motivation is, I don't understand what his motivation is. Like, so what if we do nothing? I don't think that that's viable. I think, you just have to go down to everybody why this is needed, and you could argue for the horses and the barn, but there's still stuff there.
Thank you.
I read everything he said, and I don't understand his motivation. No, but read Brad's thing. I think Brad has a great rebuttal.
My coat.
Did you say wait?
Very good, because
I saw it when,
I'm sure to cut off horse Brad's from the wealthiest family. Like, money is not. He owned the AstroTurf company, sold all the AstroTurf, like the NFL stadiums, like he printed. So money's not an issue for him, which is why he did it. He was like, screw you guys, I'm protecting. You see the jump. But that, so the judge held him. I was about to say, it took me a second. How are you doing? Good to see you. I'm doing good.
I didn't know this.
You did not know that?
Until I saw the name on it.
How are you? Good to meet you. And I figured you were crazy.
I just want to say, neighbors, it was wonderful. Oh my God, I got back Monday night. I brought John.
You checked out around the bank account, right? So. Oh, there are, oh, I wish you said that, okay.
about. Everybody, what was the question?